Zelda later.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to get that goddamn game done.
How far are you?
Pretty far. I've got 3 of the Sage's Vows. So I believe that's 3 of the big temples done. So there should only be 1 more. But right now I've cleared the sandstorm out, and now I'm just going to go explore the Gerudo Desert for a little while. I think all that's left is the Goron area, the mountain.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That temple's so fucking easy.
So Breath of the Wild, I went in like kind of what I feel is the standard order for the games that run you through an order anyway.
Yeah.
So I did like the Goron area first and the Zora area second, and then the Rito area, and then the Gerudo area.
Uh-huh.
And so this time I deliberately went in a different order.
Sure.
I started with the Rito and then went to the water area. Fuck, what are they called? I just said it. Zora. I went to
the
the
fish people.
Yeah. So I started with the Ritos and then went to the Zora, and then I just finished the Desert Temple. But yeah, I wanted to do it in a different order.
Did you see Nintendo said that these Zelda games aren't part of the timeline?
I mean, I saw that they said that they were set 10,000 years after all of the other timelines.
No, they decided that it's not part of it.
You know,
I don't even think any of that matters.
There is no real timeline.
This is the only 2 that I would consider even like sequels of each other because they're directly.
Well, Majora's Mask.
Oh yeah, that one too. Sorry, yeah,
and Zelda 2 is directly after Zelda 1.
It doesn't really feel like it.
I mean, it feels like a different game, but it is the same length.
Whatever, I don't consider it.
Yeah.
Like I said, so Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, and then these 2 are the only ones that I consider sequels. Otherwise, they're just all their own thing.
Yeah,
but they got all the weird.
I mean, there was always
related to this series as well.
Oh yeah, this is kind of the Zelda of horror movies.
Oh, God.
The only difference being is that in Zelda, all of the timelines still have mostly great games. In Halloween, all of the timelines still have mostly trash movies.
Yeah, I got Brian was trying to argue with me. He's like, no, those timelines are just fans made things. I'm like, no, they're not. Like the people who made these movies specifically in the movies, this just takes place after the first one.
There is an entire.
They even mention how the second one doesn't exist, basically.
Yeah. There's specifically a scene with an exposition dump, and most of the exposition dump is forget all of the bullshit from all of the other movies. They don't matter. And speaking of which, our movie today is Halloween from 2018, written by Jeff Fradley, Danny McBride, and David Gordon Green, directed by David Gordon Green. And there are a million characters in this, so I've kind of put them into groups. So we've got the villains with James Jude Courtney as Michael Myers / The Shape, the prototypical masked maniac who carried out a killing spree in Haddonfield in 1978. There is no reason behind his evil, and he is often referred to by John Carpenter and fans of the first movie as a force of nature. We've got Halleck Bilgener as Dr. Ranbir Sartain, Michael's psychiatrist and Samuel Loomis's former student who is a little too fascinated with Michael Myers and Laurie Strode. We've got The Family featuring Jamie Lee Curtis as Laurie Strode, final girl from the original Halloween who survived the Shape's 1978 rampage. She is suffering severe PTSD and is now a paranoid alcoholic who spends her whole adult life preparing for another showdown with Myers and has alienated everyone who ever gets close to her. She lives alone in a heavily fortified house, complete with a shooting range and hidden safe room. We've got Judy Greer as Karen Nelson, Laurie Strode's daughter. Raised as kind of a survivalist, she's a nurturing and kind-hearted mom, but she resents her mother for her upbringing and Laurie's inability to move on. We've got Andy Matichak as Allison Nelson, Karen's daughter and Laurie's granddaughter. She's a normal, smart, headstrong girl preparing for college, and she wants to connect with her grandmother. We've got Toby Huss as Ray Nelson, the father. Laid back and level-headed, he's the type to try to keep everyone cool when things are going to shit.
And nobody gives a shit about him in this movie.
Which is kind of sad, because he's sort of one of the best characters.
Just nobody cares.
I know. We've got the podcasters, Rain Reese as Dana Haynes and Jefferson Hall as Aaron Corey. They seem to fancy themselves as intrepid reporters, but they tend to resort to emotionally manipulative tactics and heavy sensationalism. We've got Allison's crew of Dylan Arnold as Cameron Elam, Allison's boyfriend. Allison's crew, we've got Dylan Arnold as... How is it that getting through the fucking cast list is always the hardest part of these?
His names.
Names are a bitch. People should stop having them.
Too many names. That's what I've always said.
We've got Allison's crew featuring Dylan Arnold as Cameron Elam, Allison's boyfriend. We've got Drew Scheid as Oscar, Cameron's best friend. He's kind of portrayed as the hyper lovable, obnoxious one of the group, but turns out to be a typical nice guy.
Well, since I don't want to be nitpicky here, but when you say that the guy's a typical nice guy, you mean like a nice guy?
Yeah.
You should probably say it that way because you're like, he was the typical nice guy. I don't think people will get it. It sounds like you're just calling him a nice guy.
I think most people will.
I don't know. Have you seen comments on the internet?
Okay. All right.
Subtlety is not.
Okay. We've got Allison's crew featuring Dylan Arnold. We've got Allison's crew featuring Dylan Arnold as Cameron Elam, Allison's boyfriend. We've got Drew Scheid as Oscar, Cameron's best friend. He's kind of portrayed as the hyper lovable, obnoxious one of the group, but he turns out to be a typical, quote, nice guy, end quote. We've got Miles Robbins as Dave, Vicky's boyfriend. And we've got Virginia Gardner as Vicky, Allison's best friend. And we've got Jabrail Nantambu as Julian, the smart-assed, fun little boy who Vicky babysits. He's not actually part of Allison's crew, but I didn't really know where else to put him.
And he's a cool little dude.
Yeah, he's kind of one of my favorite characters in the whole trilogy. We've got the police. Omar Dorsey as Sheriff Barker, Haddonfield's sheriff. He's the no-nonsense, tough but fair cop, the kind that watches too many westerns. And unfortunately, he, along with the rest of the police, are functionally useless. Will Patton as Deputy Frank Hawkins, a sheriff's deputy who arrested the Shape after the first killing spree. Cameo from Nick Castle, who plays the Shape in one scene. Other crew of note, we've got music from the legend himself, John Carpenter, with his son Cody Carpenter and his son-in-law Daniel Davies. And oh my God, they are an absolute highlight for this whole series, in my opinion. My opinions on these three films are going to vary wildly, but I can absolutely say for sure, the film scores in all three of them, they are so good. So I'm sure most people listening to this will totally figure this out as we're going along. I have a habit of using Michael Myers, and the Shape all interchangeably. They are the same guy. Again, most people probably know this, but just for anybody who doesn't.
Yeah. Doesn't Jamie Lee Curtis or Laurie actually refer to him as the Shape at one point?
She does.
Yeah.
She does. This movie includes a lot of behind the scenes Easter eggs. Like, I forget which character, but somebody refers to the 78 massacre as the babysitter murders, which was the working title for the first Halloween. This movie has a lot of cool Easter eggs, and I think
the kids in the beginning when they were talking about it call it that.
I think so too. Yeah. I think you're right. One thing I will really give this movie is that they do a great job of bringing in these older references without pounding them endlessly down your throat.
Right.
This is probably, in my opinion, the best real legacy sequel that we've gotten. It does give you a lot of the things that you enjoy in the first Halloween without just being a straight up fan service like recreation of the first movie. And I like that. A lot of it hits a lot of the beats that are necessary, but there is different subtext, actually different characters, a bit of a different feel. It's a really worthy successor, in my opinion. We'll see how we feel about the others. Okay, so starting off, Dr. Sartain escorts the podcasters to the Smith's Grove courtyard to meet Michael. Aaron approaches Michael Myers and tries to talk to him, pulling out the mask and getting only a barely noticeable reaction from Myers, while the other inmates freak out.
I find this whole situation weird. Like, I understand that they're trying to get them like daylight or something, but just that they have all these people on a roof, little squares that they got to stay in.
I think they're in a courtyard, but
are they? It always feels like a roof to me.
I'm pretty sure it's just a courtyard, but like they really portray Smith's Grove, which I think in the first movie was just kind of a sanitarium.
Yeah.
But in this, it's like where the worst of the worst psychotic killers are kept, apparently.
Yeah.
Because they have everybody basically chained, in this little, like,
it just seems like a weird setup.
25 square foot space that they've got,
But also in the beginning of the movie, like, which I get for Michael, because that's kind of like the point, but they're constantly talking about the inmates like they're animals.
Yeah.
Which is a dangerous thing to do because, I mean, I can't speak for other countries, but the United States does not have a good track record of how it treats its mentally ill.
It doesn't, though.
And I know the point is supposed to be referring to Michael, but like even like the doctor is doing it and they're kind of referring to just like points everyone there. And I'm like,
Well, I mean,
I'm not saying it's wrong with the movie to do that, but I'm just saying like,
the doctor's kind of the main one doing it, and Dr. Sartain.
Even the podcaster guy does. I forget the language they actually use, but it's like they're directly referring to them as animals, and I'm just like,
I agree. I agree, and I think this is one of those things where a lot of people are gonna miss this. Both of them are pieces of shit.
Sure.
like this scene is all scumbags.
Yeah.
We probably shouldn't be taking any of how we feel about mental illness or prisoners or crime or anything from any of these people, because this is just a parade of trash going out to the courtyard right now.
Yeah.
Which there's a fun little bit of symbolism here where Aaron, in his attempt to get Michael to speak, walks right up to the line that he's not supposed to go past.
Yeah.
And then when he pulls out the mask, he does cross the line literally with the mask.
Oh, does he?
Yeah, because he steps right up to it, but then he pulls the mask out and shoves his arm all the way forward with it.
Oh, sure.
So
I also, it's just like, again, it's a movie, but it's like, why would they ever allow this?
Because Dr. Sartain is a fucking psychopath.
Yeah, but the whole hospital would have to like agree to it. Like there's higher ups.
Well,
and then also like everyone's freaking out, and it's like, why isn't anyone stopping this? You're gonna have to deal with all these crazy people like afterwards.
You know why it is? It's because the mental health industry as a whole is very underfunded.
Yeah, some poor nurse is gonna be assaulted later, and it's all because they riled these guys up.
No. This is Halloween 2018, not Rob Zombie's Halloween. Ooh. Anyway, so yeah, Aaron crosses the line holding out the mask and he's yelling. And to answer your question more, they do list off some of their like credentials later. And I really would not surprise me if whoever was running the sanitarium was just like, well, they can probably bring us money somehow. And, people are always willing to sell out the mentally ill for a little more cash.
Sure, but it's for the criminally insane. So I believe it would be run by the state.
Yeah. Well,
anyways,
I mean, when I was, you've heard me talk about this, but when I was, and it's not the same thing, but when I was studying psychology in college, my abnormal psych class did take a field trip out to a place like this to basically tour through the facility and actually talk to some quote criminally insane inmates. And it was an interesting and kind of eye-opening experience. There was one guy that I will never forget this guy. We went into his room and he was presenting us some of his artwork. And there is one piece that looked really like colorful and whimsical from far away, because he was just like this rainbow of all these different lines. But then you got a little bit closer and you realized that this rainbow was really a whole bunch of penises. It was just erect dicks.
Yeah.
And then he was like, I call this piece, Your Daughter is Corrupting Our Son.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and I know that sounds funny in story format, let me tell you,
it was creepy.
It did not feel funny.
No, I'm
at
sure.
the time.
I'm sure not.
This, you know how this scene like totally has this weird creepiness to it, even though it's in broad daylight. That is how that felt.
Yeah, sure.
That is very much how that felt. Everyone in my class, including me, was just like, oh. You know, and I was going through this like outsider art kick at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So I was really stoked by this because it was really cool looking from far away, and then got closer and you're like, oh, you know?
Yeah.
So it's not the same thing. You know, having a class come through and tour the facility is not the same thing, but it wouldn't surprise me if they did let journalists come in once in a while. You know, you do.
Yeah, there's protocols.
There is protocol. But, you know, Dr. Sartain, as we will see later, does not give a shit about any sort of protocol or legality or morality or anything.
Yeah, sure.
You know, again, parade of trash in this scene. This is where we get into the title sequence. And normally I wouldn't bring this up, but this one was so cool, where it sort of mimics the original title sequence from the first Halloween with the pumpkin, but instead of just zooming in on a pumpkin, it starts with a rotted pumpkin that slowly like reverse ages back into a jack-o'-lantern. And it's just this really cool effect that really weirdly in this one image just encapsulates so many themes of the movie. And it's excellent. Also, you got the Halloween theme. Who doesn't love John Carpenter's Halloween theme? And it's this great updated version. Anyway, after the intro sequence, the podcasters visit Laurie. Through their brief interview, we get an exposition dump about the mess that is Laurie's life. They pry into her personal life just a little too much to try to convince her to meet with Michael under the guise of getting closure for her, and she gives them the boot.
Well, it's also because they're baiting her with information they already know.
Yeah.
They're just trying to get a rise out of her.
Their morals are absolute trash. I really love at the beginning of this when he pulls out, or when she pulls out a bunch of money, and he's like, journalists don't pay for their interviews. And then the minute Laurie seemed to hesitate, he's like, money.
yeah, of course.
You know. But yeah, then they get in here and they're so emotionally manipulative and so like...
Because they mentioned that her daughter got taken away. And then they're like, when did you get her back? And that's what pisses her off, because they're like, you know I didn't get her back. That's why you're like, the whole thing you're hearing. So it's like, what the fuck were they expecting? That's not going to make somebody do what you want.
Let's just agree that this is never going to be us, Jessica. All right. I hope everybody else heard that hesitation too.
I don't think we're going to be... investigative podcasters.
I mean, you don't know that. You're into the whole true crime thing. If this podcast takes off, we might want to branch out into real death. Okay. From there, we meet part of Allison's crew while she, Cameron, and Oscar are walking to school. They are discussing the effects that the babysitter murders had on Laurie and the family, and give us another exposition dump, letting us know that you can pretty much negate all of the other sequels, as we were talking about.
And that nobody in this fucking town cares, because it was like 5 people 30 years to 40 years ago.
Kind of.
No, the guy's going on about, like, who fucking cares?
That is true with the characters that we get in this movie. In Halloween Kills, it's going to suddenly be like...
I know, and that's
a big thing.
Part of why that movie sucks.
We'll get to.
Because they make a point to be like, it was long ago and it was like barely any people. Like,
yeah,
who cares?
Yeah, they're discussing the effects that the original Halloween had on Laurie and the family, giving us a big exposition dump that the previous sequels are no longer canon. There is no Curse of Thorn. Thank God, because that was so stupid. And Michael is not related to Laurie. Thank God, because that was also really stupid. You seem less...
No, it is stupid, because the whole point of Michael is that he's just that way.
He's just a force.
Yeah. And I don't like the force of nature thing, but
well, no, I mean,
he's
a human.
Evil to be evil. Like, I don't know, there are real life killers who have had great lives and seem perfectly nice, and then they're just fucking psychos. It just happens.
Yeah, and that's the whole thing.
That's what makes
metaphorically he's a force of nature.
Sure, but I'm like,
he's still a human.
What makes him scary compared to like supernatural stuff is just there is no reason, and you don't know when someone's just gonna snap.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, other than Halloween 3, I've hated every sequel to the original Halloween up until this movie.
Yeah.
Which we'll get into with Halloween Kills. While in class, Allison notices Laurie is creeping on her in the same way that Michael used to creep on Laurie on that fateful Halloween day in 1978. Despite trying to build a rapport with her grandma, she does ask Laurie why she can't get over it, and this really just establishes their relationship and dynamic from here out. There's also a little bit before this that just establishes that Karen is trying to keep Allison and Laurie separate, which we'll learn more about why she wants to do that later. Montage time. We see Aaron listening to a recording of Dr. Loomis saying that Michael needs to die. At the same time, Dr. Sartain insists on joining Michael on the bus as he is being transferred to a maximum security hellhole, which Smith's Grove already looked like a maximum security hellhole.
Yeah.
But I guess not. I guess there's worse. While this is happening, Laurie is practicing shooting before drinking in her car and watching the bus with a gun. So then we go to the family, having a nice dinner at a nice restaurant to celebrate Allison's academic achievements and introduce Cameron to the parents. Having just seen the shape and failing to carry out what seemed like a planned assassination, Laurie shows up and has a breakdown, causing a scene. Allison comforts her, but the rest of the family is pissed. Karen is glad that Allison finally got to see this side of Laurie that the rest of the family already knows.
I think it's impossible that she's like graduating high school and has never seen this. I'm pretty sure she's well aware.
Maybe. It's pretty clear that the parents try to keep them separate.
Yeah, but she has her phone number. We know that. And she talks to her separately.
That is true. Laurie probably is trying to keep it together a little bit more for her. Since she's chased everyone else off in her life. But you know what? Sometimes we're blind, and maybe she's seen plenty of other like red flags that she was able to ignore. But making a scene in a restaurant in front of her boyfriend, that might be a little harder to ignore than other instances.
I don't feel like it was that big of a deal. She has a right to be emotional. It seems crazy to be like, oh, he's actually being moved, and that's like the time you're like, oh, yeah, you're so unreasonable. Get over it. And it's like, okay, like,
well, I think clearly everybody except for Allison has been telling her she's unreasonable and get over it.
Sure, I'm just saying maybe this is the night that you have a little more sympathy.
Maybe, although, well, okay, I would be kind of like, why did you see him? What the fuck were you doing? Like,
I was afraid he was going to get out.
You're just going to hang out. I mean, they didn't know that she was drinking. You know what? They probably did. Not from just from knowing who she is.
Well, she guzzled wine when she got to the dinner.
Yeah, boy, she slammed it down. So then we switch over to a father and son going hunting when they find...
Well, that little boy, he just wants to dance.
You know what? I really like these characters, and I know
he just wants to dance.
This is such a great scene in my opinion, and I know that some people are kind of divided on this whole like we're gonna stop the movie and hang out with these people who are just gonna be victims in a minute for like 5 minutes while they have a weird conversation. But I really like it because that kid is actually one of my favorite characters in the movie, and I love how the conversation that he has with his father, who's trying to like man him up, really kind of mimics a lot of the themes in this movie of parents trying to imprint something on their kids. And it's like this interesting microcosm of the entire family's dynamic. And it also just gives us a little bit of sympathy and a little bit of connection with these two characters so that it can be extra horrifying when Michael kills the shit out of him.
Yeah, well, you don't want, it doesn't, it's not impactful if it's just random person walks into frame.
Yeah. I liked it the way they did this though, because it's got both of them discussing what's really important to them.
Sure.
And it like just gives you this straight shot into the heart of who they are.
Yeah.
But they come across the crashed bus and find inmates wandering everywhere. And Michael Myers kills them both, but not before the kid accidentally shoots Sartain in the shoulder. Cut to Halloween. Michael is stalking the podcasters as they visit his sister's grave before stopping for gas. Michael kills the entire staff of the gas station/auto shop, stealing the overalls from a mechanic before killing the podcasters and recovering his mask from their trunk. And now it's Halloween night, and it is time to party as we join the Shape while he goes from house to house on his newest rampage. This is a really fun scene.
Well, I just wish there was still kids like all over the fucking place when it was Halloween.
I do too, and this is...
I hate trunk or treat. Get out of here with that shit.
Once again, churches ruin fucking everything.
Well, it's not only churches now.
Yeah, but they're the ones that started
People are like, oh, it's safer. I'm like,
it isn't.
Just show me any actual reports of kids getting like fucking kidnapped or hurt or getting poison candy, except for that one dude who poisoned his own kids.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't happen.
No, nobody's going to poison your fucking kids.
Nobody's giving them weed gummies. Do you know how much that fucking costs? Like...
Also, what kid is actually going to eat a weed gummy? They smell and taste like butt.
I don't know. The ones I had the other day were really good.
I've never had a candy edible that I like. I don't think I've...
Oh, man. We got some recently. They're already gone, but they didn't have a weed taste at all.
Really?
Yeah. Usually they do.
I want to believe you, but man, I find that hard to believe.
No, I was surprised because I was expecting them to.
Overall, I'm not a big fan of edibles. I have found that some drinkables work better.
Yeah.
For me. In particular, I had a weed michelada that was made with like non-alcoholic beer and michelada stuff and weed. And that was absolutely my favorite way to have an edible or a drinkable, because for once the weed was not fighting with all of the flavors. The weed actually worked as like an ingredient and like fit really well with the flavor of the michelada. I really wish there was some place in our immediate neighborhood to get that, because I don't want to have to drive out to Berkeley to go get them, but...
like I said, talk to the Don's guy. But anyways, you're talking about the bathroom scene.
Sorry, where are we at?
Because you said
here?
this scene is really fun, and then I brought up trick-or-treating. But you're talking about the podcasters get beat up in the bathroom.
Oh, no, I had moved forward from that. Let's back up and talk about that.
I thought that's what you were talking about.
No,
and I was just like, trick-or-treaters.
So the bathroom scene is actually really cool. There was like a playfulness to Michael Myers in the first Halloween movie that I feel like disappeared over the original sequels. In the first one, you know, you had him stab the dude to the fucking wall, you know, and then kind of admire it, which I know you were saying that he admires his kills too much in this trilogy.
Yeah.
But it was a lot more restrained in the first one. But, you know, he does stab the dude to the wall.
Yeah.
He dresses up as a ghost and sort of fucks with the girl.
Yeah.
There's just this weird playfulness to everything that he's doing, as fucked up as it is.
Usually it seems like he's doing it after they die, where this is like, oh, I'm going to fuck with them beforehand.
Well, I mean, no, even fucking with the girl in the first movie.
Yeah. What you just said.
Yeah. So that doesn't happen in any of the original sequels, but in this, they really brought that sense of playfulness back. So when the girl's taking a leak and he reaches over her stall and just drops a handful of teeth.
Well, also, he's opening all the things. He knows where she is. And then when it doesn't open, he looks like he's going to walk away and then just comes back.
Yeah. And it's great. I love this whole playing with your food bit that he does in this movie a lot more, because it feels very true to the first movie.
Sure.
So then after he kills the shit out of them, and this, he is fucking brutal killing them. I love this scene, and fuck these podcasters. Yeah. Fucking manipulative pieces of shit. This is what they get. What they get. Yeah, the funny thing being, in Halloween Ends, you have all of these accusations that are thrown to Laurie about, oh, you instigated things with that
which
crazy
I think is
person.
wild.
You know what? I actually think that it's very much how people would behave. But funny thing, the podcasters are the ones that do that.
Yeah.
And this is going to be a recurring theme throughout this movie and kind of the series as a whole, of people getting blamed for shit that other people are doing.
Well, it's also because Michael doesn't talk. They're like, what he thinks and his motive.
Yeah. I have a note in here about the whole Michael supposedly stalking Laurie thing.
Well, I was the one that when we first watched this in the theater instantly was like, no, he's not. Yeah. He doesn't give a shit about her. At what point did he ever seem like he gave a shit? He's just going through his, the same way he did before, and then he gets driven there.
Yeah, no, it was Sartain that wanted them to be together the whole time. But nobody else believes that. So many people who just need an explanation assume that Laurie did something to instigate it. Laurie feels like Michael's always going to be coming after her, and it was never ever about her.
Yeah.
He does not care about Laurie.
He probably doesn't even know who the fuck she is.
Yeah, probably not. Even if he did, how would he know where she lives and all this shit? Like, Michael never talks. But is he secretly going on the internet and like doing all this research? Like, hey, where's that chick whose name I never knew?
You got a phone smuggled in.
Yeah. Really, outside of these movies, Michael actually talks a bunch, and he's just like a kingpin of crime in fucking Smith's Grove Sanitarium.
Yeah.
So on Halloween night, we watch the Shape wander the streets full of trick-or-treaters as he goes from house to house, killing the residents. And this is a pretty fun sequence. We also get a little bit of foreshadowing about what's going to happen in Halloween Kills here, because one of the people who he stalks and kills in this scene is on the phone learning about how the bus crashed.
Oh, yeah.
And so we start to hear the rumors spreading throughout the town.
Well, it's just crazy that they didn't put out, like, because even the big sheriff guy, like, oh, what are we going to do? Cancel Halloween? Yeah, because not even Michael Myers. You have like criminally insane people loose, because they mention that there's other people loose.
We see that there's other people loose. They're all over the road.
Well, they say that they captured most, and then they mention that there's a couple loose. So you see them all, but then they mention that they got most of them, because most of them did just continue to wander around like that. But I'm just like, absolutely, you notify the public.
It's Jaws all over again. And actually, there are enough references.
In Jaws, there's like money that you're making for like the summer. It's like Halloween. That candy money's already been spent. There's nothing else to be gained.
That's true.
Like, at least capitalistic wise.
That is true.
All those costumes and all that candy already been bought.
So Vicky calls Allison while she, Cameron, and Oscar are at a Halloween party to invite her over while she babysits Julian. I don't remember what she says about it, but it doesn't matter because she's not going to make it there anyway. She hangs up and sees Cameron making out with some other girl. He gaslights her, trashes her phone, and she leaves him. Vicky puts Julian to bed as her boyfriend Dave arrives. This is also kind of a fun scene because this is like the original Halloween for 10 minutes.
Yeah. So
Vicky puts Julian to bed as her boyfriend Dave arrives. And
with the jack-o'-lantern with hearts as eyes.
It is very cute.
Yeah.
There's so many.
They sell a figure of Michael from this movie with the jack-o'-lantern with hearts.
Oh, do they?
Yep.
Oh, I kind of want that. That's so cute. Another thing, I know I kind of said this earlier, but just there are so many great characters in this movie. Mm-hmm. Most of the characters are likable. I think really everybody except for the podcasters and Sartain, but I don't think they're supposed to be likable.
I don't know, the friend.
Oh, Oscar?
Was that, yeah.
You know what? He seems likable enough until the inner nice guy, quote unquote, comes out.
I never liked him from the beginning. It's obvious what kind of person he is. First time I saw it, very beginning, it's just like, ugh, one of those guys.
I mean, there's one in every friends group.
Just got to glob onto you, and nobody really likes him.
There's one in every friends group. He reminds me a lot of a guy that I hung out with in high school. He also kind of reminds me of myself for 1 year of high school. Very specific time period where I was trying to figure myself out.
Sure.
But we'll come to him later. So Vicky puts Julian to bed as her boyfriend Dave arrives. Just as Vicky and Dave are about to get it on, Julian runs down screaming that somebody is watching him. Vicky investigates, and both she and Dave get killed. Julian, however, escapes and does call the police. Laurie arrives at Julian's house while Hawkins and the police are investigating the murders. Hawkins finds the bodies as Sheriff Barker rolls up with Dr. Sartain. And somehow, everyone ignores how weirdly starstruck Sartain is with both Laurie and Michael.
Well, he's dealt with Michael the entire time.
Right, but like...
How people haven't been sus of him, like, again, at the hospital.
I mean, that is true.
You can't just be obsessed with one person.
But at this point, like, Sheriff Barker is standing right there when he starts making the googly eyes at Laurie and being like, Laurie Strode.
Yeah.
And just has this real...
I guess they got other things on their mind.
I mean, they do, but like he is so typical of like the awful fan.
Yeah.
You know? And I wonder if that actually is deliberate, because he's absolutely that guy who walks up to the rock star while you're waiting in line to talk to them patiently and is like, I've read everything you've ever written. I've listened to everything you've ever recorded. I've got all of your movies on Blu-ray. Everything that you shouldn't be when meeting a famous person is exactly what he is. And I know that things are complicated and crazy, but if I was a cop and I was in this situation and I was like, this doctor was on the bus with them for some reason, even though that's not standard protocol.
Yeah.
They all escaped and he's not dead. And now he's here making the googly eyes at the original victim.
Yeah.
This is weird.
Yeah.
So that's actually my absolute least favorite part of the movie. And it's obviously not a deal breaker, because I absolutely love this movie. But every time we get to this scene, it always does take me out of a little bit, because I am just like, how does nobody see what's happening right now? Obviously, get this guy away from her and maybe bring him in for questioning. Allison walks home accompanied by Oscar, who drops his guard, or who drops his own mask and pulls the nice guy routine while putting the moves on her. She ditches him just in time for the shape to impale his fucking face on a wrought iron fence.
Yeah.
And this, for me, personally, I don't know about for you, this is sort of the moment where the movie goes from really good to fucking great. It's like this really specific moment. John Carpenter and his crew bring in this new theme that on the record, it's labeled The Shape Stalks Allison, or The Shape Chases Allison, or something like that.
Creative.
I mean, that's kind of how themes, that's how film score titles go.
I know.
But it is this really awesome, new theme that is related to the original Halloween theme, but is completely different and has this big booming sound to it with these creepy chimes. And this is absolutely one of my favorite film scores that I've ever heard. But this moment where this music kicks in and you have Oscar's face impaled on this thing, and then the shape comes out and starts chasing Allison, this is really like the moment where the third act kicks in and everything that we've been building up to starts for real right now.
Sure.
And it's great. And again, this is just, for me, this is when the movie goes from really good to absolutely great. So Hawkins first picks up Dr. Sartain and then Allison as they are searching for the shape, while the rest of the family prepare the defenses at Laurie's house. Hawkins, Sartain, and Allison do come across Michael, and much to Dr. Sartain's dismay, Hawkins runs him over and is about to shoot him in the head when Sartain pulls out a hidden knife and stabs him in the throat.
It's like a little pen knife thing.
Yeah, which I think is why he doesn't die.
Yeah.
So I guess I should say a hidden blade, and stabs him in the neck. He then traps Allison in the back of the cop car with Michael as he starts driving them to Laurie's house, looking to reunite the shape and Laurie. This doesn't go well for him, as Michael kills the fuck out of him, and Allison escapes and runs to Laurie's house. Ray, who we really haven't talked about, because even though he's a good character, he's been mostly inconsequential.
He's just kind of there. Yeah.
Yeah, you know what he is he's kind of the common sense of the movie.
Yeah, I guess.
So there's nothing like special that goes on with him, except that he's helping to keep things
He gets peanut butter
grounded.
on his penis.
Does get peanut butter on his penis.
Which is such a weird way to phrase that. It's like on his penis.
Here's the thing, though. I could see you or I saying something like that if it's just like us home with the family, just to be fucking funny.
I guess.
You know? Whether by family, I mean you, me, and our spouses, or us with our individual family units. I could absolutely see one of us phrasing it like that because we would think it was funny. Anyway, so Ray steps outside to talk to the cops, but finds them both dead. The shape then strangles
one of them, his head got turned into a jack-o'-lantern with the flashlight.
It's
pretty cool.
It is pretty cool, and again brings back this cool playfulness that
I think it's probably
Michael
the
has.
coolest looking body that we see.
It
I don't
is.
say we don't see the deaths.
And also,
but I'm like, when did he have time to do this? Because they're like parked right out front. They're just like, the cops notice them pretty right away, and then they notice the cops. So I'm just like, Michael's a fast carver.
I mean,
and I'm assuming he used that pen knife.
To be fair, well, I don't know. He might have just like used his hand. I don't know. I mean, I don't know how strong he is. You know what? As we see in the next movie, he's pretty fucking strong.
Yeah, in all the movies, they make him pretty strong.
Yeah. Also, didn't he get a knife in the last?
He gets a knife. He got a knife
when he was stalking.
Yeah, I don't know.
When he was stalking the people in the streets.
Yeah, he gets it from the lady making the ham sandwich, which was out of a giant piece, like full ham. I don't know if he still has it though.
I think so. I'm pretty sure Sartain left it in the back seat with him.
Does he carry it around everywhere with him? Because he was knocked out.
But I mean, if it was in the police car, he could definitely have brought it with him.
Yeah, I know, but I don't know if it was in the police car because again, he was knocked out.
I think so. I think Sartain.
Whatever.
Honestly,
doesn't matter.
Honestly, I don't remember if we see it, but I always operated on the assumption that Sartain brought it.
Yeah, I don't think so. Anyways, doesn't matter.
Yeah. Either way, Michael does something really cool, and I do think that this jack-o'-lantern looks a little bit better than the head jack-o'-lantern we see in Terrifier.
Sure.
So Ray finds the cops dead, and then Michael comes up behind him and strangles him to death, and that is the end of Ray.
When they eventually find him, nobody cares.
No, they do.
There's little to no reaction to finding your husband dead.
She has a pretty good scream.
Yeah, because she was startled.
I think it was because she was startled by the corpse of her husband.
But it was just, but it wasn't because it was her husband. It was just because she was startled. And then, like, they just never seem to care. Even in the next movie, it's just kind of like, oh.
Oh, in the next movie, they do talk about it.
They talk about it, but they don't seem to really give a shit. She's just like, because of you, my husband's dead. And that's about it.
To be fair, in that situation, I think that's about all I would say about it, too. It's not, I think
initially you would have a reaction.
Well,
other than like, something fell at me.
Well, I mean, you do go into shock.
These people do not go into shock.
After Michael kills Ray, Laurie sends Karen to the safe room while Michael attacks. During this struggle, Laurie shoots off 2 of his fingers, which is pretty great. For some reason, despite Laurie's fear having actually come true and her having no reason yet to think the motivations that brought him here were any different, she somehow has this dumb moment of revelation and tells Karen that she should have given her a real childhood. Weird ass time to have this revelation right now.
Yeah.
Just bonkers. Karen is down in the safe room. Laurie and Michael are having themselves a good old-fashioned horror movie stalk and fight. Laurie and Michael stab each other, and then Michael throws her from the balcony. In a pretty good reversal of the iconic scene from the first movie, Michael turns away for a moment when he hears Allison arrive and turns back to find Laurie gone. And we hear that. I will admit I was really tickled by that in the theater. That's one of those moments that inches towards being a little too fan servicey, but didn't cross the line.
Dude, no, it's actually done well. Unlike Star Trek doing the whole reverse Spock and Captain Kirk thing, that was just bad and stupid.
It's a really good thing this isn't a sci-fi podcast because we would eventually have to do that movie, and I hated that movie so much. So goddamn much.
Yeah.
Allison makes it into the safe room, so she's with her mom when Michael Myers breaks in. Now, Karen manages to pull a really solid rope-a-dope on the shape, acting scared and helpless before shooting him in the chest and stunning him.
Yeah.
The surviving family manages to trap him in the safe room and then burns the whole house down, because that was the whole point of this place. Laurie didn't just set up her house from a defensive position.
No, she wanted Michael to come there.
She always wanted Michael to come back so she could trap him in the basement or in one of the rooms behind the security doors, and then burn the house down, getting her revenge, finally killing him, and freeing herself from the eternal torment of paranoia and blah, 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 blah.
But there's a big question here, because we see how crazy she is and she's not able to establish relationships and do anything, consistently. Where the fuck is she getting her money from? Do you know how much it would cost to build all this shit? And then also just how big a house she has. Where the fuck is her money coming from? And also, how the fuck did she have a kid? Clearly a one-night stand, right?
Well, they do mention that she's been divorced, I believe, twice.
Oh, do they? I missed.
Yeah. I don't remember exactly.
How? Just like.
Well, so they do mention that she took up with a survivalist.
I was gonna say, like the dude from Tremors.
Yeah.
He'd be all over it.
Yeah. So they do mention in the movie somewhere, I'm pretty sure, that she took up with a survivalist.
You're right. They do. But also still, where's the fucking money coming from?
And there is kind of a possible hint. I don't remember if it was in this movie or in Halloween Kills, but there does seem to be a little bit of a hint that Hawkins might be Karen's father. I don't remember all that went into it, but I do know that I'm not the only one who got that impression. So they trap Michael in the safe room and activate the main breaker, which burns the whole house down around him. Laurie, Karen, and Allison all escape the house, which is now engulfed in flames, and hitch a ride in the back of a pickup truck that they see coming down the road. The three women embrace as they are taken to safety, but we do see another shot of the safe room burning without Michael in it, and we hear his breathing over part of the credits. The end of Halloween 2018. Yeah, as I've mentioned, I absolutely love this movie. I know I already covered this, but it is, to me, the perfect legacy sequel. It gives you everything that you really loved from the first movie, putting things into a different context, giving you some more different, interesting characters, different themes.
Yeah.
Exploring these characters from what would honestly be a not 100% realistic point of view, but like
Laurie, it's realistic enough.
Well, I
it's
mean,
not like ridiculous.
Laurie setting up her house as a death trap for Michael.
Like I said, where's the money coming from? You know how much that would cost?
A lot. Not as
and
realistic.
You gotta have somebody that will do it like off a contract, like permits and shit. Because you know, no city's letting you set up like gas blow torches in your basement.
Yeah. No, it was definitely done without permits. Yeah. I actually think that her house might be just outside of city limits.
Maybe.
So she might be living in an unincorporated area.
Sheriff's.
That's
the sheriff's.
Well, right. But I don't know if you need county permits. So if you're living in an unincorporated area, I don't know enough about
I don't know.
I don't know enough about the laws here.
It's just for me, it's where's the money coming from? Yeah. This bitch hasn't been working, at least not steadily.
Her being this much of a mess and being a complete broken wreck is very realistic. The damage that it's done to her daughter doesn't seem too far off.
Yeah.
The whole family dynamic does actually seem pretty realistic.
Yeah, it's fine.
And we do get to see like these very human kids where they're shitty teenagers, but they're not
caricatures of teenagers.
Yeah. This movie is very, very well written.
Like the way they talk sounds natural, because a lot of movies when they write teenagers, it's like, what up, fellow teens? Like that.
Yeah. And even with somebody like Oscar, who is bordering on caricature.
No, he's fine. He's a real person.
It doesn't
mean I like him. Just he comes up as a real person.
But yeah, he does really remind me of one friend that I had in high school. He was funny.
Yeah.
And in a one-on-one situation, yeah, he could be good to hang out with. But there were a lot of times where you were just like, dude, you are so exhausting.
Yeah.
And you're such a pain in the butt. But yeah, and it has nods and Easter eggs, but doesn't go like really overboard with them. And I also like that even though we see the same motivations, which is like zero, we see Michael picking up where he left off when he was caught. And we see this playfulness and we see this brutality, but it's still not like Michael Myers' greatest hits.
Yeah.
He doesn't do all the same kills. He's not just repeating everything.
I also like that he has a dead eye when they show him without his mask.
Yeah.
It's from Laurie stabbing him in the first one.
Yeah. Which he in the first one, when you see him without a mask, his eye is all like fucked up and closed.
Yeah.
And I do like that. I feel like there was a lot of care put into being really true to the original movie in this. I think it's great. This has become a yearly watch for me.
One thing they gotta stop doing though, man, and I think this movie started it. Stop calling sequels, or maybe Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Stop calling them the same thing. They need to have a Halloween something.
The Thing started that.
Okay, yeah. You can, and it's that's a prequel, and this one's a direct sequel. Stop calling, unless it's a complete remake, stop calling movies the same name. And so that we have to like say Halloween 2018. That's not the name of the movie, but there's no other way to distinguish them.
And you know what? I know something
it's so fucking confusing.
I know something like Halloween Returns or something would be really cliche. It still sounds better than Halloween 2018.
Yes.
Or you could think of any other title. Halloween Ends, for what it is, makes sense. Halloween Kills, I think, is a dumb title, but it's better than calling it Halloween 2 2019.
Yeah, which should have been called Halloween Evil Dies Tonight.
Oh my God.
But yeah, it's like, just stop that. Also, so I watched this on Tubi.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I know. Have you watched anything on Tubi?
I've never watched Tubi.
Okay. No. People fucking love Tubi because it's free and they do have like a shit ton of movies and TV shows. Mm-hmm. They do have the largest selection of like horror movies, but commercials every 15 minutes. I checked.
No. I wouldn't.
I looked. It's commercials every 15 minutes, and it's about 3 commercials each time. But everyone told me that the commercials weren't that big a deal, and I'm glad I had already seen this movie because I think horror movies, like, commercials fuck them up because you're breaking up the pacing and stuff.
Yeah.
And as somebody, like most people, I haven't had cable in like 20 years, so I'm not used to like constant commercial breaks. It was really irritating. And I purposely watched it on there, 1, because it's on there, but 2, because everyone on all the horror groups and all movie groups online are like, oh no, Tubi's the best. And they're like, no, the commercials aren't that bad. I'm like, I don't know. Every 15 minutes, it's like, how more often can they be? You
know what it is? Tubi's got a really good marketing team out there posing on Facebook groups and shit.
Maybe. I don't know.
It's not at all unheard of.
Yeah.
Grassroots marketing campaigns like that are really common. And they're dirt cheap.
Yeah, they do have a lot of movies. If you can't find something, there's a good chance it's on there. But every 15 minutes, I was just like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I've never had any interest in it because I've never heard anybody say that it's good for anything except for horror movies, which I'm sure there's plenty of other shit on there.
Yeah, there's just tons of stuff on there. There really is. Like
you know what?
I guess it would count as horror, but like they have all the Beetlejuice cartoon right now.
I mean, that's cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have no interest
They're also starting to make their own trash movies too.
Yeah, I have no interest in a horror service where everything is broken up by commercials.
Yeah.
Which is why
hey, if you can't afford things, great. But there's also like Plex and other free services that don't have commercials that fucking often.
Yeah, or you know what? If you want to make me sit through 15 minutes of commercials before a movie starts,
oh yeah, I don't mind that.
Watch it, fine.
Amazon has started doing commercials even when you pay, and it's before. That's fine.
Well, I mean, I kind of don't want them when I'm paying.
Sure, because the whole point of commercials is they're paying for stuff. But if they're going to do commercials, yes, I prefer it all at the beginning. But no, it's every 15 minutes. It was very annoying.
Yeah.
Just wanted to say that. For anyone who hasn't checked out Tubi and was wondering, and for any Tubi lovers, I mean, good for you, I guess.
Well, you just talked me out of checking it out.
It does. I'll say the one pro is that there's a ton of stuff on there.
Yeah. I mean, I've got my two horror streaming services, and I don't have enough time.
Do you have Screambox?
I do have Screambox. I just watched this movie on it that I was really interested in, and it was pretty disappointing. It was called 13 Tracks to Frighten Agatha Black. Well, I didn't see a trailer for it or anything. I just saw the picture, and it's a girl holding a vinyl record. And I'm, as you know, and I think we may have mentioned it on the podcast at some point in time, I'm a big vinyl nerd. I collect way too much vinyl. No, but I was really, like, just from the looks of it, 13 Tracks to Frighten Agatha Black, girl holding a vinyl record. My immediate impression was this was going to be like a cheap anthology with like 13 stories, one for every song on the record. It is absolutely not what that movie is. It does involve vinyl, and it was clearly made by somebody who cares about vinyl because it does show her like cleaning it the proper way and all of that.
Somebody get their head cut off with the vinyl?
No.
That should happen.
It's more like she's not even listening to music. She's listening to like those old records that are like scary stories and stuff. But as she's listening to things, they start to happen in real life around her. And honestly, there's some cool ideas in it. And I like that general vibe, but I was kind of hoping for more of an anthology. And also, this is a micro budget movie. It's one of those things that was probably made for like $5,000.
Yeah.
Really first time filmmaker stuff,
sure.
Which is fine. I'm not bagging on it for that, but it just kind of, just wasn't quite as cool as I was hoping. With a more experienced filmmaker and a better budget, it would be something that would probably really appeal to something like me, to someone like me, but wasn't quite there. Anyway, back to this movie. There was a funny character moment that I noted in this time. I'm just gonna go off on a thing. Doing this podcast with you has honestly actually changed a lot of the way that I watch movies.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I notice a lot more things like symbolism or intentional connections between different scenes. And so this is something that I didn't notice before, but I noticed this time. And I think it's in large part to just looking at movies differently now, which is there is this great scene in the beginning where we're meeting the family, Allison, Ray, and Karen. They're talking about how the parents are about to meet Cameron, and Dad gives Allison this very dad style half joking lecture about how boys are fine until they knock you up, and then you end up cleaning their guns and riding in their truck and cleaning their guns. And he just keeps listing off all these things, but he punctuates all of them with and cleaning their guns.
Yeah.
And then 2 scenes later, we see Laurie, and what is she doing? She's cleaning her guns and driving in a truck. So I thought that was fun. And I've seen this movie a few times, but I noticed that the first time. And I think it's because I'm just looking at things different.
Yeah.
As mentioned earlier, there is one of the themes of this movie besides trauma and PTSD is one of parents projecting onto their kids. We see that with how Laurie tried to raise Karen. We see it with Karen trying to keep Allison away from Laurie.
Like where she's lying to her.
She is.
Yeah.
Like
she's like, oh, I did contact her. She can't come.
Yeah, and she's a terrible liar. And we even see it with the dad in the truck trying to project his idea of manliness onto his son who just really wants to dance.
Just wants to dance.
You know what, buddy? I'm with you.
He said he wanted to go hunting still, just, not, he was like on the weekends.
There's room in the world for both things.
You can go hunt and you can dance.
We can dance if we want to.
I know.
You can leave your friends behind.
You can leave your dad behind.
You can leave your dad behind.
And if you don't dance, well, he's no dad of yours.
Another thing that I really enjoyed first time seeing this movie, and kind of every time, is the Silver Shamrock mask cameo, where we see the witch mask, the skeleton mask, and the pumpkin mask, all from just three trick-or-treaters are dressed up are dressed up with the 3 masks from Halloween 3, Season of the Witch.
Yeah,
which I like because I love that movie. I'm glad that movie is getting more of the respect that it deserves. But yeah, so I do really like the Silver Shamrock mask cameo. We already talked about Oscar. That guy's nice guy turn is so goddamn cringe.
It's a real thing, man.
Those fucking guys. I said it before on this podcast, and I'll say it again. Guys, be better. And then, as I mentioned, this is one of my absolute favorite film scores of all time, not just of John Carpenter's, but it's just fantastic. And that new theme that he creates, that really sort of lets you know that the movie's kicking into high gear. Incredible.
Yeah.
That is one of the film scores that I do actually listen to on its own as a record fairly regularly. It's excellent. I have all of these on vinyl, all 3 of the film scores from here, but this is the one that I love the most. Got any stuff you want to add here?
No, it's a good movie.
Yeah, it's a good movie. Who would you recommend this movie for?
Anyone that likes Halloween?
The movie or the holiday?
Both.
I would similarly recommend this one to anybody who's a fan of the original Halloween. It's
You don't really need to see that though for this because they explain everything, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, it's not necessary to see the original, but I'm never gonna tell anybody not to watch it.
No, but I'm just saying if you don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Because some people are lame and are like, oh, I don't watch old movies.
Yeah, I would recommend it for anybody who is a fan of horror. Honestly.
Yeah.
Pretty much for anyone. It's a great movie, especially if you're a fan of horror and especially if you're a fan of the original.
Yeah.
It's great, not just as a reboot. It's a great sequel. As I've said a few times already, this is, in my opinion, the best legacy sequel that I have seen. If every legacy sequel was this good, I wouldn't find the fact that they're so prevalent to be so annoying.
Yeah.
Yeah, good times.
Cool.
All right.
So if you're looking to watch Halloween 2018, you can stream it for free or with a subscription on Netflix, Peacock, Hulu, and Sling TV. To rent or buy, you can go to YouTube, Google, Fandango, or Amazon Prime.
Okay, that's going to do it for part 1. We will see you guys next week for part 2 featuring Halloween Kills.
Yep.
Jessica, play us out.